Welcome to another monthly look back at the recent releases from Games Workshop. This is the December edition, which means we've done a full year worth of these reviews. As always, I'm not looking at the main games. My focus is with the skirmish or box games that Games Workshop produces. Kill Team is the big release for this month. The Salvation box has the Space Marine Scouts versus the Eldar Striking Scorpions, while the new Killzone has Mechanicus platforms over an ocean board, which is an interesting take. The most notable change here is that the teams and terrain are now separate. This is good and bad. The good is you don't end up with lots and lots of terrain over and over again, as we had with the Into the Dark series of boxes. The bad is the combined price is a little bit more than if you were getting both in a single box. I think overall it's probably a good thing. If you're a dedicated buyer of Kill Team, it is going to end up cheaper in the long run. Notably, that new Kill Team is also quite good for general 40k or Necromunda terrain, so it should have some general appeal outside of Kill Team. A second point that I think is worth mentioning is that these kits are 40k kits that are being used for Kill Team. Previously, all of the best Kill Teams were custom made for Kill Team and were given rules for use with 40k. Examples would be like the Krieg Guardsmen, the Orc Commandos, or the Navy Breachers. You also had a second set of teams like the Chaos Legionnaires or the Pathfinders, where they took an existing kit and added a custom sprue for Kill Team. In this case, though, unless I'm very much mistaken, the Aspect Warrior Kill Team and the Space Marine Scout Kill Team could have been released as part of the main 40k line and wouldn't have looked out of place. It'll be interesting to see if this trend continues, hopefully not, as the old approach gave us some real iconic teams. Kill Team also got a balanced data slate update with a video overview of it. This brought some adjustments to the Chaos Cultists and the Commandos to tone them down a little, while the Exaction Squad and the Wormblade had some small improvements. Moving over to Necromunda, we have only 2 releases for December. Pal Knight Enforcer Taros Venator. This is a plastic version of what once was a resin kit for the Elysian drop troops. I think it's a fantastic addition to range, and the Ash Waste of Necromunda just keeps getting better and better. I think we can expect a lot more of these Venators to be customized, and we'll see them being added to lots of different factions, I think, within Necromunda and possibly in 40k. We also got the Apocrypha Necromunda. This is a bit of a weird one. It brings together a bundle of options. So that's from old books, online PDFs, and White Dwarfs. And I think a few of them are also brand new. Unless you're running a campaign, it's probably not an essential purchase, but certainly an interesting one. The book includes rules for making an Underhive Nemesis, living settings that change over time, resurrection packages, bonus scenarios, brutes, and vehicle rules. It also includes the Uprising campaign, which previously was only available as part of the Dark Uprising box. That has been out of print for quite some time. Moving over to Underworlds, they get releases every second month, and this is one of them. The Rivals deck Malevolent Masks has a series of mask upgrades, of which a fighter can only ever have one at a time. Then lots of the cards key off having those masks. It's a neat idea, but it struggles a little because you need to get glory to get the masks down, and sometimes you need the masks to play the cards to get the glory. The warband is Dagok's Stab Lads, some cool looking Cruel Boys, although if Cruel Boys never quite worked for you, then, this kind of looks a bit samey. The playstyle focuses around the new card of Schemes, which you play in your power step face down. They then get turned face up at the start of your next turn, usually giving a bonus for that turn. They also stay in play until their condition is met, after which they go underneath the plot card. Then other cards, like objectives, can check the number of completed schemes you have. There was also a rules update, which mostly seems to clarify the rules for the recent warbands and the Death Gorge rules. Last month, I did mention that there were Bloodball releases. I was actually wrong. They're part of the December release. Now, they're just a bunch of old releases again, up for a limited time. In particular, we have lots of cheerleaders, which aren't actually needed, but are some pretty nice models. Legions Imperialis, of course, got its initial release last month. We don't actually have any new models for it yet, but we did see some minor updates to rules. These are just small things like Pioneer Company formations, getting the Rapier battery requirement to change to a Bastion requirement, which makes sense. The Legion Aerial Assault formation, changing the Vanguard slot to a Core slot. Again, I don't think we have any Vanguard stuff yet. And then we've got stuff like the Thunderbolt gaining wing bombs and the Storm Eagle losing rockets. Then there were a few other changes like Engine Killer upgraded to include vehicles, where before it was just super heavies, and the Warp trait gets a bit of a downgrade And now against Knights or Titans gets 1 dice instead of dice equal to the remaining wounds, which for the Warlord would have been a total of 6. For Titanicus, we did also get a PDF that has all of the new weapons for the Warhound. The Warhounds in the Legion Imperialis box do have an extra sprue, which has a couple of extra weapons in plastic. I think they probably were in resin before. Now we have the plastic options in the Legion Imperialis box, and we've got the PDF of the actual cards. We did actually get a Warhammer Quest release, at least kind of. This was the December Battle Report, which had the Red Gobbo facing off against the Grotmus Gits, the Grabs and Presents. This is both awesome and frustrating as it uses a custom-made board and custom models. So unfortunately you can't walk into GW and pick up the parts you need for this scenario. Instead, you have to build them all yourself. Props to the studio team for showing that you can make all this custom stuff and for making that custom scenario and releasing it as a free PDF. That's very, very cool. But it would have been nice if it was a little easier to make this Christmas game, especially as we do have the model for the Red Gobbo and the Grotmus Git currently available. December's White Dwarf is $4.95 and does have jungle rules for Kill Team, which I think is pretty nice. It is only 2 pages though, so there's not really a lot in it. That said, you do get cards with it, which is good, but at the same time, I mean, it's just 6 cards and there's already a table and we have D6, so anyway. For Warcry, there were rules for the Cities of Sigmar warbands, so that's the Castellites, the Darkened Covens, and Dispossessed. Really, I think it's more focused on the Castellite, though. Now, unfortunately, the wording in place is a little awkward. It does reference the Cities of Sigmar rune mark, which doesn't exist anymore. That has been taken out and has been replaced by the Castellite, Darkened Covens, and Dispossessed ones. But we have the usual background tables. We've got some extra artifacts with quests. There's some thematic stuff around playing a Dawnbringer Crusade. So that's where you're trying to set up a new settlement. There's also the regular Necromunda campaign report, which is interesting, but it is still other people playing rather than anything you can add to your own campaign. I have to admit, I'm a little conflicted over White Dwarf this year. When they initially talked about the idea of doing the bunker and adding content for the skirmish games, I was pretty excited, and to be fair, some months have lived up to that, but for the most part, I think it's been a little bit underwhelming. Anyway, that brings us to a close for 2023. Pretty much every game has been well supported. We've obviously lost a few along the way, and Aeronautica and Titanicus are getting reboxed into the Legion Imperialis line. Every game has had a pretty steady release schedule, if not Warhammer Quest, although it has been noticeable when distribution issues have caused problems. Kill Team and Warcry are obviously the 2 big skirmish games, and both have changed their release model. And we are seeing a change in the setting for Kill Team, although how that will manifest is a little bit unclear. I'd be surprised if they stayed with the ocean terrain for an entire year, so hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that new planet. Warcry is still in Norwood, and we do know we're getting a few more warbands all the way up through spring 24. But after that, we don't know. The roadmap we currently have runs out. As someone who follows almost all of the box line games, I'm almost tempted to ask GW to calm down a bit and give me a little bit more time to work on things. But I think if you only focus on one particular line, I still think you've got a decent amount of content to keep yourself busy and keep working through it. So I have to admit, I think GW have done a good job on that. There are a couple of things I think could be improved. As I say in pretty much all of these videos, I really love the Necromunda Apocrypha. Now, that's not the book that's been released, but that's the monthly PDF that they occasionally put up. They didn't put one up this month, actually, if I think about it. So I think we've probably had about 8 to 10 of these so far this year. But it's just a simple PDF with a few extra rules, a few extra options. And, I think it just is a cool addition to have something fun to play. It's actually the kind of stuff that I would have thought would have been in the White Dwarf. So if they can if they can live up to that in 2024, that would be great. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of new releases. We're going to be getting the Warhammer Old World. I'm not sure what they're going to call it, but we're going to see a few more options there. We're probably going to tie some of that into Warcry when it comes to the skirmish side of things. More models, it's all a good thing. Anyway, that's all 2023. I hope you enjoyed these. I might look at doing a overview of everything we've had during the year. That could be a little bit fun, or maybe just focus on one of the particular lines and cover that. Anyway, have a great evening and have a wonderful new year. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible 2-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.